it's not just your job, it's the whole system. And there's this whole mindset and toxic work culture that is everywhere. It has been celebrated and accepted like it's totally normal. And subscribing to these toxic work culture beliefs is not only making you miserable at work, even if you're not in a toxic job, it might be stalling your career and leading to career burnout. And that's why in today's video, I am taking down these 5 toxic work behaviors. If you're here for the takedown, tap that like button and let's jump straight into it. The first toxic work culture behavior that has been totally adopted and even glorified is hustle culture. You know that preaching about working all the time? And like, how is this even a thing that people think is cool, other than it's the only way that they feel like they're important? Hustle culture means that you're working all of the time, that you're always on, and it interprets working hard as working the most hours. Because you're supposed to be working 60 hours a week, have your life together in a way that makes you the envy of all of Instagram, and be doing self-care while you hustle. It's all very contradictory, and it's a one-way ticket to burnout. And the funniest thing about hustle culture, and when someone brags about working 80 hours a week, is that it tells me you're not productive. One of my favorite studies to talk about comes from Stanford, and they looked at productivity at work. And what they found is that after 55 hours a week, your productivity really starts to tank. And after 70 hours a week, it really just falls off a cliff. So when you work 80 hours a week, it's like you're working 55 hours a week. And 55 hours a week is way too much. And the ultimate gotcha about hustle culture in practice, especially from what I've seen in the startup world, is that it's highly performative. Is that it really means that you're sitting around in the office doing not work. I can't tell you how many people I have seen that spend 12 hours a day hustling every day. They're watching YouTube. Sorry if I'm calling you out right now. But you're not working 12 or 16 hours a day if you are not working productively. You're just actually wasting time at work and taking away from your life and burning yourself out in the process. So all of this waking up at 5 a.m. and working 14 hours a day in order to prove the fact that you're important, can we just call it what it is, throw the toxic AF stamp on it, and start living a more balanced life? This is actually one I'd love to hear your thoughts on in the comments down below. The second toxic work behavior that is just part of the working culture that we really need to take down is actually, it's kind of derived from the hustle culture thing, but it's different and toxic in different ways. And that is no days off. I can't tell you how many people that I've spoken to that have bragged, I haven't taken a vacation in like 5 years. You need a week off. Joke's on you, I just took a month off and it was awesome. But you win the Burnout Olympics, my friend. Would you like a medal? This whole taking a vacation is a weakness, or that you're not serious, or you're not determined if you take a vacation, is just utter rubbish that I cannot stand. And who does it serve when you don't take your paid time off? And we haven't done this for a while, so let's break out a JBTV quiz to figure out who not taking a vacation serves. For the lucrative prize of a virtual fist bump, tell me, who does not taking a vacation serve? Yourself, your family and friends, or your company? If you said your company, you're right. Virtual fist bump coming your way. When you're always there, when you're always answering emails, when you're always going to the meetings, when you're always working on the projects, when you're always billable, when you're always whatever, that is not serving you to not have a break. It is not good for you to go an extended period of time without time off. I know working remotely from a different location doesn't really count because you're still working. And this is actually, I think, one of the downsides right now with so many people working remotely or going into a hybrid model as they're returning into the office, is that it's like, oh, you need a day off, like you can just work from home and be right? So whether it's a sick day or a vacation that you need to take, there is all this pressure to always be online and never actually take a vacation. Compounded by the fact that it's a totally separate rant and maybe a separate video about the fact that not everyone gets paid time off, which is just crazy to me. This is nuts. This is not okay. Because there are so many benefits to taking time off and having a vacation, even if it's a small one every year. You're going to have less stress. There's a whole host of health benefits that I'm gonna put on the screen there. And You're just gonna have more energy when you come back into the office, so you'll be more effective at your actual job. Now, when I posted about vacation a couple weeks ago on my community tab here on YouTube, a lot of people said that they were afraid to take a job, that they wouldn't have a job to come back to. And that actually leads me to my third toxic work culture behavior that pretty much everyone has accepted as normal, and that is top-down leadership. I am the boss and you will respect my authority. Like, what the F is that? Seriously? Are you an adult with that mentality? Or are you a child? Because it seems really immature to me. Now, most organizations still do function this way, where decisions are made at the very tippity top and then they trickle down through the organization. And then people are just paid to execute upon what they're told and not have any autonomous thoughts that vary from what the leader said. But is that effective, and is that empowering, and is that a healthy workplace? In my opinion, it is toxic AF to have this structure where all decisions are made at the top and that employees across all levels of the organization are not empowered to make decisions or to question decisions that are being made. And while I'm personally lucky because I come from the tech world, which tends to run a little bit more flat and a little bit more autonomous, you still run into it there. For example, here's a dramatized version of a conversation that I had with one tech executive. You have to respect me. I'm an executive. And my job title, it's higher than yours. You have to respect me because you report to me. Do I? Here's the thing, in all of the corporate politics and the toxic work culture and all of the games that we play to pretend that other people are more important than we are, no one is more important than anyone. Sure, they might be higher up the ladder, they might have a fancy job title, and they might get paid a lot more money than you. But just because those things are true does not mean that they should have any more respect than you, and that you have to respect them when they're not giving you any respect, or that you should value them when they don't value you. And really, I think that type of leadership, where leadership is coming through job titles and hierarchy, is actually just insecure leadership in practice, because real leaders want their teams to be smarter, they want their teams to be more talented, and they want their teams to be empowered to go and do the jobs that they're being paid to do. And if you want to dig in about insecure leaders, I have a whole video that I'll link in the description bar down below. And this next toxic work culture behavior thing, I honestly think that this is the worst one, because this one can have such a detrimental impact to your life and to your well-being. And that is that work always comes first. And honestly, we see this all the time. Even those companies that are out there preaching about the fact that family comes first, expect you to answer calls and emails after hours, work extra time when it serves them, it's necessary for the business, and put the needs of the company before your own needs. And here's where I get really irked. There's this misperception that if work doesn't come first all of the time, that you aren't fully committed, that you aren't determined, that you aren't ambitious, when in fact you can be all of those things, but work doesn't have to come first all of the time. Maybe sometimes work does need to come first because there is a real actual urgency. But really, work is a social construct just like everything, and it's all things that we're pretending to be important that actually on your deathbed won't matter at all. I used to be the worst about this. Work came before most things in my life for way too long. And it all came to a head when I was pregnant, grieving, and pretty ill, and I tried to go on a business trip, which resulted in me being dramatically deplaned when it became a medical emergency before takeoff, which at the time was equally parts traumatic and embarrassing. So why would I, sick, pregnant, and deep in a grief hole, get onto an airplane to go on a business trip? Because I was afraid that my boss would think that I didn't take my job seriously enough, that I wasn't committed to the company, and that they would be mad that I missed the trip. And to be honest, in retrospect, I don't think they would have thought any of those things, and I don't think they would have been mad about it. Because they weren't, even though it got to the point of the dramatic deplaning, but I think even without that they still wouldn't have been mad. And while I think this whole work coming first is really challenging for everyone, I actually think that working parents take a particular brunt here. Working moms are forced to have to choose work first to show that they still actually care about their jobs and are not just gonna run off and become stay-at-home moms, which is what sadly a lot of people assume about them. And working dads face judgment about their masculinity if they take a day off to take care of a sick kid. I mean, there's that saying that we should work to live, not live to work. And as much as we say it all the time, it's not something that enough people are practicing. And that brings me into the fifth toxic work culture that we really need to dismantle, take down, burn it to the ground. And I think that this is the most important one. So I'm really glad that you stayed to watch this this point, because if you only take one thing from this video, it should be this. You are not your job. Somehow toxic work culture has constructed it that our identity is based in what we do. Think about it. When you go to a happy hour or a dinner party, one of the first things that people ask you is, what do you do for work? Not only are we being reduced down to our job titles, but we are deriving our identity, our validation, and our significance from the thing that we do for work. And I would argue to a good extent as well how much we get paid, because your job title and how much you get paid for doing the job that you do says so much about you in today's society. And I think that is one of the most toxic things about work culture today. And truly, I think that everyone's job is really important. Each of us are playing a fundamental role in order to keep our society moving and to support our communities in some way. Are there differences in terms of skill, education, training, and knowledge and physical capacity for those? Of course there are. But I don't think that anyone is more or less important for being a doctor than they are for being a delivery driver. Okay, slight detour there. When our identity is built on the thing that we do, what happens if you decide to change your career or if you lose your job? And I'm telling you guys this from personal experience. My identity was in my job, and when my job went away, I was like, who am I? And I don't want you to go through this. And really, I think that this is a fundamental shift that so many of us really need to make, because you're not just your job. You're a family member, a friend, a community member, a career bestie, and so much more. Your job should be a part of who you are, but it isn't who you are fully. Life is not work, and work is not life. In fact, that is so important that I want you guys to go to my Instagram, and I'm gonna put that post up. I'm gonna make a nice image for you to take a screenshot to remind yourself when you need it. Because I really want you to figure out who you are outside of work and who you are outside of your career. And I want you to prioritize those things equally, because they are all part of your awesome self. Now, I know this can be really hard, especially when we combine them with other toxic work culture things like hustle culture and work coming first. And if that's the thing that you're hitting as we're talking today, I actually have a bonus for you, because I do think that this is possible with work-life boundaries. Now, if you've been hanging out with me for a while, you know my next statement. Work-life balance is bullshit. It literally does not exist. Work is going to take up whatever space in your life and your headspace that you allow it to have. So no, you don't need to figure out work-life balance in order to have different areas of your life and have an individual identity outside of work. You need work-life boundaries. And this is something that is so important. What I want you to do is go and watch this video right now where I break down the work-life boundaries that you really need. But before you go, if this video helped you, give it a thumbs up. Really helps my channel, makes you my favorite career bestie, and I appreciate that so much. As always, my friend, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.